Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Is everyone enjoying Bitcoin MENA? I hope so. And hello, everyone, and welcome to our panel discussion on leveraging Bitcoin for financial inclusion. I'm Vivian Cheng, and I'm the host of Live with Bitcoin podcast, where we explore the personal transformations through the lens of Bitcoin. It's an absolute honor today to moderate this panel, and today we're welcoming an exceptional lineup of panelists. Financial inclusion is a topic that cuts across all communities and industries, and Bitcoin uniquely positioned to play a transformative role in this process. Today we'll explore how Bitcoin is making an impact, opening doors, and shaping the future of financial inclusion on a global scale. After we delve into the discussion, let's hear a round of self-introduction from our panelists.
Should I start first? Marhaba, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Faisal Saeed Mutar. I'm originally from Iraq, but I live currently in New York City. I'm the founder of IDEA. Actually, I have multiple hats. I'm going to wear the inclusive hat. So I work first as a researcher with George Washington University in the United States. I also have an organization, Ideas Beyond Borders, we're going to touch on, and also building a venture fund to support startups. So on the Ideas Beyond Borders piece, we work on three things: education, innovation, and policy. My last time in Dubai was in the Wikipedia or Wikimedia conference. So we are the organization responsible for building most of Arabic Wikipedia. We have added roughly by now 45,000 articles in Arabic, Farsi, Kurdish, and Pashto. And we call it after Beit al-Hikmah. So Beit al-Hikmah 2.0 is the name of our program to revive that golden age of Iraq and across the Middle East. And also we give a lot of funds to a lot of startups, and hence the Bitcoin conversation comes in, because many of the countries we work in, like Iraq, Lebanon, etc., they don't have as much advanced banking systems as exist in the UAE or the United States and other places in which you cannot just easily wire transfer money and there. So we actually have to be creative on how to get the money over there and to pay our team, which is now made up of 120 people. So the conversation of Bitcoin to me is not just about going to the moon and becoming a billionaire, even though I would like to be that. That's one of my goals in life. But from a pragmatic approach about how it can be used to really unbanking the unbanked, providing financial resources to people that the current and sometimes archaic banking systems that exist in when I was born in Iraq or other places. So I'm very passionate about the subject, and I'm very honored to meet many of you here, and happy to talk to you all.
Thank you. So I'm Antonia Roupell. I lead innovation and partnerships with regard to Bitcoin at Save the Children. So Save the Children is the largest independent children's-focused organization in the world. We work in over 100 countries, focused on humanitarian aid and also development. I've personally been there some time, and I've been able to work directly in CR programs in places like Gaza, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Iraq. There's a long list. So I'm looking forward to sharing what we're doing with regard to Bitcoin and financial inclusion.
Hi, I'm Yoni Assia. I'm co-founder and CEO of eToro. eToro started in 2007 with the vision of opening the markets for everyone to trade and invest in a simple and transparent way. So I consider financial inclusion also financial inclusion to capital markets. We have today 37 million registered users to the platform that trade both stocks and crypto assets. And as we started eToro before Bitcoin, in the pre-Bitcoin era, it was very exciting to see the progress of Bitcoin since we started this journey in, I think, 2010, buying our first Bitcoins for $5 and seeing how that entire market scaled and grew to now more than $560 million people who actually own digital assets today in the world, which is financial inclusion in its own.
Amazing. And the next question to kick things off, I want to address this question to all of you. How do you define financial inclusion in your context of work?
Well, mine, I guess in ours is very simple, is that having people who are not part of the regular banking systems that exist. I remember opening my first bank account in the United States. I arrived in the United States around 2013, and it was so simple to open a bank account in the US. I mean, you need a social security number. You give that, you're in. You're now able to receive money. You're now able to send money. In Iraq, it's amazingly regulated to get a bank account. To even receive loans or anything, you have to put in assets, your home, in some occasions. So for me, it's like that financial inclusion is really being able to live a normal life, like to be able to transact money digitally, to be able to be part of the global financial systems. As Iraq, we're unfortunately a country of refugees. So many of us live in the US, Germany, and other places, and we want to send back money to our family, our friends, and so having the ability to send that and having everybody being part of the global financial system, sometimes in a small way, we're not talking about investing in S&P 500, but it's just being part of the normalcy of just having your phone and sending your money to anybody around the world. I think that's what I define financial inclusion to be at its most basic form.
Right. And Antonia, what's financial inclusion in your...
For Save the Children, financial inclusion is often a situation of life and death. We work with the most marginalized communities and individuals. So we see financial inclusion as the center of everything that we do. You have billions of people around the world today, underbanked, unbanked, debanked. This means they don't have access to basic financial services like being able to hold the earnings that they have in a secure way, being able to transfer funds without being hit by, high fees. And that's even people who have, just to be able to have access to the financial system right now, you need IDs, you need to have a bank account. 120 million people right now, plus, I think in the last few months, are displaced. So that means they're forcibly displaced. They don't necessarily have access to their IDs and their information. So as Save the Children, we see financial inclusion as essential to what we do. I would just add that with regards to financial aid, a big part of what we do is cash assistance. So gone are the days where you would just arrive, you'd maybe fled Ukraine, and you'd be given a hygiene kit and a blanket. Maybe you don't need that. Maybe your family needs to pay for urgent medical support for your child. So we now, and many other humanitarian organizations do this too, provide cash in crises and assistance. So we're looking specifically now at how we can use Bitcoin, and I'll get into that in more detail, within our cash assistance. But last year, I think we did 170 million in cash assistance globally, and that's something that's going to continue to grow. Yeah.
Wow. And how about Yoni?
So first of all, eToro has always been about democratizing the markets, access to the market, and we focus a lot about financial education, which I think is very important prior even to financial inclusion. And we also started what we realized, I think about 10 years ago, is that it's actually hard to serve the people who need the most because they don't really have access. So we started the Good Dollar nonprofit foundation at eToro, which is basically a free digital wallet for every person in the world to actually come in and claim every day good dollars. And the purpose there is to really help people understand how to use digital currencies. Then they can actually use those digital currencies. And today we have more than 1 million clients, mostly from Latin America and Africa, that actually claim good dollars on a daily, monthly basis, and then create markets around them. So we basically created a blockchain-based UBI system for people to be able to participate in the markets without taking any risk in a decentralized way.
And the good dollars are dollars?
No, it's called Good Dollar. It's actually an ERC20 token that we create by actually minting it. So people are minting it every time that they claim.
And Yoni, the next question would be for you. Now we're seeing a lot of institutional effort and institutional adoption into Bitcoin in general. And Bitcoin was funded with the principle of decentralization and empowerment. And do you see the fact that we have increasing adoption from industry, institutional players, would that be diluting Bitcoin's core vision, in your opinion?
I don't think it's diluting because I think the way capital markets work, right? So you have the ETFs and then you have the Fidelities and the BlackRocks and all the institutions buying in, and you have the price of Bitcoin going from X to 100,000, and also carrying the entire market cap of all of that. All of the crypto markets are going higher. And all of the people who joined crypto over the last 5 or 10 years from all around the world, there was hundreds of millions of people, just became wealthier, right? So they're actually supporting the entire crypto ecosystem by buying crypto, increasing the prices of Bitcoin, therefore the entire crypto market, and by definition, they're creating huge amounts of wealth to all of those people who actually bought Bitcoin in 2012 or 16 or 20, or basically any time you bought Bitcoin now, you made well.
For sure. And for Faisal, we're having the pleasure to hosting this very discussion in Middle East. And from your experience, does Bitcoin adoption differ in Middle East from other parts of the country? And what are some of the unique regional opportunities and challenges you see in this region?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I was mentioning in the beginning, is that, I mean, obviously the Middle East is, I always say the Middle East is the opposite of Las Vegas. What happens in the Middle East doesn't stay in the Middle East. So the effect of the Middle East around the world is pretty massive, as you know. But the Middle East is obviously not one entity. I mean, you have the Gulf states. I mean, you have the GCC, and that's where we are right now, and which have much more advanced banking systems and the existence of international banking infrastructures from HSBC to Goldman Sachs, etc. So that's a very different experience because they already have access to basic financial services. If I'm in the United States and I want to send money to Dubai, I just fill up the form at JP Morgan and whatever bank you use, and you can send it immediately. Then you're going to go to the conflict-ridden Middle East, which is if you fly 3 hours away from here, you see it. And that's where Iraq and stuff comes from, which has archaic banking system, sanctions, U.S. sanctions, U.S. Department of Treasury, etc. So that's a kind of a completely different world. So the use of Bitcoin is kind of very different because is that people, I think the last statistic is that about 85% of Iraqis are unbanked. Now the Iraqi government is forcing people to get banked through the salary position, is that they're giving salaries through banking, so they're actually forcing people to join the banking infrastructure. However, Iraq is not on the SWIFT system, so the uses of, I would say, in Iraq in particular, and Syria and Lebanon, is that with Lebanon, the currency was completely devalued, as you know, over the past decade. So Bitcoin is utilized a lot as a money sending thing. Is like you have Iraq, Syria, Lebanon. If you add us combined, there's about 20 million of us live overseas as expats or refugees. So Bitcoin is actually used as a way to send money because you have Western Union that takes a lot of fees, as mentioned. Fees is a very big issue. So that's the case in Iraq. So the case in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon is not used necessarily as a way to be rich or kind of a way to be, it's more like a way to send money. In Turkey, there was a very good article on CNBC about the fact that Turkey, after the inflation rate that happened a lot, is that it's being used as a hedge against inflation. So many Turkish people buy Bitcoin as a way to do that. So each kind of, I would say like each country, but each region within the region. I mean, they have the GCC, the most advanced. They kind of will say the uses of Bitcoin is very similar to the US and most of the kind of the advanced economies. But then if you fly 2 hours west, the situation is a bit different, and it's being used as a way to transfer money and also a hedge against inflation.
Wow. And for Antonia, I know Save the Children was the first international NGO to accept a Bitcoin donation in 2013. And wow, that's so impressive. And I want to ask you, how has Save the Children's effort with Bitcoin evolved over the years?
Yeah. So the donation in 2013 was in response to a typhoon that hit the Philippines. 10 years on, well, more than 10 years on, I think it's fascinating to see we were the first organization to accept a donation. Now, if you look in the US, you have the majority of the large charities in the United States accept crypto. And the Giving Block, who we work with, they've said that $2 billion this year went through charitable donations in crypto. So it's there and it's growing. In order to stay relevant and pioneers in this space, Save the Children understands that we need to look at how we use the technologies, the underlying technology of Bitcoin, peer-to-peer transfer of value in a permissionless way. This is the innovation. There's a lot of noise, but this core is the innovation that we can put to use. So we set up a crypto, on the donation side, we set up a crypto campaign in 3 years ago, and we've raised about 8 million in just organic people donating crypto to the organization. But today, and this year actually, we did a partnership with Fedi. So Fedi, who are building on Bitcoin, a community custody solution with Bitcoin, but importantly, that can be off-ramped into local fiat. And we're testing that in a humanitarian context, which is super exciting.
Wow.
May I add something about Fedi? I mean, can you hear me?
No.
Shut down.
No, we can't hear you, so your mic is off.
Oh, no, that's better.
Okay, so one of the very interesting things that, whether self-custodial, is also the elements of trust. So I think with Fedi, which I really encourage everybody here to engage in that conversation, is that in most of the countries that she works in and I do as well, is that most of the people rely on what's called human ATMs, is that you give your Bitcoin to somebody and that person gives you cash. And at the beginning, when Bitcoin was just being popularized in Iraq and Lebanon, there was a lot of fraud happening, is that you give people Bitcoin and they're like, I'm not going to give you money back. So what Fedi is doing, and I think what great having the Save the Children and other organizations involved in this, is that it would be good to develop trustworthy people, because normal exchanges don't work there. You cannot use Coinbase and eBinance and stuff because of a lot of reasons. So really, I think what Fedi does really well is that it has this individualized and also safer way to transact in Bitcoin into fiat, which is something that if you are dealing with a humanitarian work, people need the money immediately in local currency that they can buy food, they can buy shelter. So that's what I think is really something that needs, I guess, more innovation on, is how to find trustworthy human ATMs for you to give Bitcoin to and get money in local currency. Just what you're saying.
Yeah, totally. And back to Yoni. You just mentioned the UBI project, and eToro has its project that offers universal basic income, but it was built on a proof-of-stake blockchains. So I want to ask you, how can we as a community leverage Bitcoin's capability to build UBI projects or more initiatives that are aimed at financial inclusion?
First of all, when Bitcoin started, there was the concept of faucets, right? So when Bitcoin started, a lot of people could just sort of find Bitcoins and collect them in different websites. So when we started the Good Dollar, the idea was, how can we get people to actually collect tokens without the need to actually set up an account, transfer funds, take any risk? I think the concept of Good Dollar could work the same way on a smart contract system on Bitcoin as well. We looked at it in the past. Right now it's more based on EVM models like Ethereum, but it's definitely something I think worth for us exploring with partners, figuring out how can you bring the concept of universal basic income into the sort of core Bitcoin protocol to help people start stacking stats without taking risks.
I can just add that we actually did a Bitcoin project last year, and I think you can just use the core of Bitcoin, right? You don't need to look too far. We did a project with Stackwork in the Philippines, which was offering people mobile micro work, tasks you can do on your phone, and just pay them in Bitcoin. Because now you can send a small amount of funds to somebody, and it makes sense for me to send you, Vivian, 30 cents, because I'm not paying 15% fees on that, which I can't afford. So being able to send someone, and again, you just need Bitcoin for that. Send someone funds in that way, you're empowering them economically.
Just to give an example, on the Good Dollar, when people collect every day, they collect like 1 or 2 cents, right? So 40, 50 Good Dollars is 1 or 2 cents. Then they aggregate it, and we had people in Nigeria aggregate these 1 or 2 cents every day to eventually pay for education, right? So that entire process can't happen in traditional finance, right? There are a lot of people who for the entire month don't make even $5, but when you can actually give them 1 or 2 cents, 10 cents, $30, it's very significant in a lot of regions in the world.
And I want to address the next question to Antonia. When we're dealing with Bitcoin for financial inclusion, how do we measure success when leveraging Bitcoin in that process?
I think it's a really key question, and it's one we'll continue to work with. I think success is when Save the Children works somewhere and is able to extract themselves. We do not want to create more dependencies, more need for us to be in places. But unfortunately, because of the crisis we're facing, we've been in places many, many decades because they're compounding crises. But on the financial inclusion part, the way we would measure success is tough because in many ways we want to work with open source technology. We want to work with Bitcoin. We want to work with Fedi, which is what we're doing. The whole point is that these are privacy-preserving tools and technologies. That means that we don't own the data. We don't get to see the data of how much somebody is stacking or not stacking. because that's their right, that's privacy, and we need to promote that in humanitarian space. So I think the privacy aspect makes it harder for you to monitor and evaluate the findings, because you're not taking people's data and you're not selling people's data. So that's the tough, well, it's not tough, it's great, but it means that we have to find new ways to define success. And I think it's the less that we are finding dependencies on us, that is success.
I guess it will all come back to proof of work then.
Yes, proof of work, all the way.
And for Faisal, Ideas Beyond Borders is really an organization that equipped individuals and communities through kind of teaching them how to fish instead of giving them the fish itself, right?
Yeah.
So can you give us some specific examples on how your organizations have been empowering individuals in a space like entrepreneurship?
So about 3 years ago, we did a partnership with George Mason University, and they have an amazing program called Emergent Ventures, in which they give somewhere between $500 to $6,000 to start up money for kind of innovative ideas. So we received a $2 million grant to actually do that for Iraq, Lebanon, and other places. And again, the first challenge we got was, how are we going to send money over there? How are we going to be able to make sure that the people have received the money, and etc. So we have built, there is a very known system called the Hawala network, and that's what's mostly used in the region. But one of the things that is great about Bitcoin is the P2P, the peer-to-peer phase. And when people actually receive the Bitcoin and then they actually convert it to local currency and they start a business with it, it becomes real. Mm-hmm. Now it's no longer just an abstract people speaking in a convention center. It's actually something that people can use on a day-to-day basis. And when then people see the success stories of these businesses, one of the reasons why we support businesses is that we don't want to create dependency. Is that if we want, my dream for Iraq is that more people visit Iraq than escape it. So that's how we measure success. So we look at success is that more people visit the country than leave the country. And when people see that businesses are rising and these businesses are creating a lot of jobs, then when they hear that the seed money actually came in Bitcoin and they converted to local currency and it's real, then mass adoption happens. So actually our best ambassadors, instead of our educational videos about Bitcoin and what it is, and people, to be honest, get confused. Like, who's Satoshi, who's whatever, nobody cares, to be honest. Like, nobody cares who Satoshi is when you're trying to deal with this kind of real stuff. But when they see it's real, they convert it to local currency. Local currency was able to get them to hire people to expand their business. And then they tell their stories to the public that we received money from the United States and we got it in Bitcoin that was converted to real thing. And as of now, we created 35,000 jobs. And every week we publish a news story about some of the businesses that we supported. And they became actually our best ambassadors, is that we received some of the money from Ideas Beyond Borders, we scaled our business. And so we're very much like to keep it real, like want to show real impact, tangible things. And hopefully our goal is ceasing to exist. So I don't want to continue the organization forever. We actually we're now trying to find a deadline in which when we actually want to close the organization because we have achieved our mission, not actually just trying to get money for sustaining ourselves, not sustaining the cause.
I can definitely feel the sense of empowerment someone may feel when they see the success of their peers overcoming difficulties and utilizing all the resources. And I want to address our last question to all of you on how do we balance the short-term volatility of Bitcoin versus the long-term potential of what Bitcoin can mean for financial inclusion. Let's keep this one brief as we're running out of time, but I would love to invite all of your thoughts.
We give people, the thing is like Bitcoin is a success story. The money is rising. It's not an issue. So if we tell people we're going to give you in Bitcoin, they're like, sign me up. It's probably going to become an issue when it goes down, but right now I think it's great. And we give 3 options to people: Bitcoin, digital dollar, or cash. So we really give it up to the recipient to choose whatever method that they're comfortable with, and we get them sign an agreement on that. But I think now with the price going up, everybody wants to sign up for this project.
Yeah, I would say that, the price is important because it's a measure of success in one regard, but the technology remains the same, whatever the price is, right? So we need more humanitarian and more charitable organizations looking to see how they can use the technology. With something like Fedi, there's a great thing that we'd be testing in our pilot, which is where they can stabilize the price of Bitcoin to whatever local fiat currency we're dealing with for the time of that transaction. Because you can't afford to send someone $5 and then it's $2 when it arrives because of the fluctuations. So there are ways, and there are people building layer 2, layer 3 solutions on Bitcoin that I highly recommend people watch. And finally, a shameless plug for people to, if they have crypto donations that they want to give, Save the Children's a great organization, and we're working in the space very actively.
And us too.
I think everybody aspires eventually for Bitcoin to be the reserve currency, right, for central banks. The real innovation of Bitcoin is it's actually the reserve currency of people, right? So every person in the world can basically be their own bank, own their own Bitcoin, and preferably not sell their Bitcoin, but actually be able to take against it credit or dollars and spend other sources. And I think the most important thing is if we look at the next couple of years is seeing that growth from 500, it was 420 million, now it's 560 million, to reach to 1 billion people with digital currencies, and then to 2 billion people, and eventually to everybody on the planet.
May I add, I mean, the volatility piece is actually something I just thought about, is that, again, back to the Middle East as a region, within the GCC, that's not an issue. But I used to live in Lebanon in 2009. $1 used to be 1,500 liras. Now in Lebanon, $1 is 50,000 liras. So I think many people in the region are very used to volatility. It's not a trigger, actually, unfortunately, to say if the currency is volatile. I mean, only in places, again, back to like the GCC and other places where the dirham and the US dollar are very much used to volatility.
Amazing. I think it's safe to say that all of us on stage would agree that we're bullish on Bitcoin financial inclusion. And let's wrap up here, and thank you so much for our panelists for your great insights, and thank you for our audience listening into this conversation, and let's keep this collaboration ongoing. And thank you so much. Enjoy your time at Bitcoin MENA. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is your company ready for the next evolution in financial strategy? Bitcoin for Corporations is your partner in securing the future of your business. With exclusive membership benefits, our comprehensive masterclass, and a network of trusted service providers, we provide the insights and resources to help you incorporate Bitcoin into your financial strategy, ensuring stability and long-term value. Strengthen your business. Innovate with confidence. Bitcoin for Corporations, protecting your treasury and positioning you for the future.